It's really fascinating how global events like pandemics or inflation hit different places so differently.
Absolutely. People's experiences can be worlds apart,
Yeah.
even when facing the same sort of global pressures.
Right. And today we're going to dig into a really compelling contrast. Think America versus Vietnam. It's almost like a tale of two worlds responding to economic shifts.
It really is, and the core difference is quite striking, isn't it? You've got the U.S. with its, well, relative wealth, established systems, social safety nets,
Uh-huh.
and then Vietnam, a country really shaped by overcoming hardship, now in this phase of rapid change, fostering this incredible adaptability.
Exactly. So our mission today is to unpack these contrasting responses, especially looking at economic pressures like tariffs. We'll get into how the Vietnamese people are adapting, particularly with this recent, pretty significant 46% U.S. tariff hike on their imports that kicked in this year, 2025.
Yeah, that tariff is a big one. It adds another layer of pressure.
For sure. And if you're listening, maybe you don't have a huge economics background, don't worry. We're aiming for a clear, insightful look at this economic resilience. It's really quite engaging.
Okay, so where should we start? The U.S. side.
Yeah, let's start there. The comfort dilemma, as some sources put it.
Yeah.
In the U.S., there's this cultural value placed on comfort, right?
Yeah.
Linked to historically higher salaries, minimum wage laws, unemployment benefits, even stimulus checks during crises.
Right. These things create a cushion. They establish a certain baseline expectation for quality of life and financial security.
And we really saw this play out post-COVID, didn't we? The labor shortages. You had restaurants, retail, really struggling to hire, even though demand was bouncing back.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't necessarily people being lazy, as some narratives went, but maybe more of a systemic thing, a result of decades of relative affluence.
That's what the sources suggest. Certain kinds of work, maybe manual labor, lower-paying jobs, they just weren't seen as desirable options for a lot of people who felt they had other choices, or perhaps could rely on those safety nets for a while.
Yeah, that perception of work becomes deeply ingrained. If the alternative to a less desirable job still offers some financial stability, the urgency to take that job, well, it diminishes.
It does. And that creates real friction when those jobs are actually pretty vital for the economy.
It makes you think about how consumer culture and the focus on sort of always moving up shapes these preferences over generations.
Okay, now let's pivot. Completely different scene. Vietnam. Our sources just paint this picture of, wow, resilience in action.
It's palpable, isn't it? Entrepreneurship isn't some formal concept there. It's just happening everywhere. On scooters and tiny alleyways, people selling things right from their homes.
Yeah, this no job is too small, no effort is wasted idea. It really comes through.
And the ingenuity is amazing. Like the example of the woman in Ho Chi Minh City with her cafe literally on a scooter.
Right. Selling coffee, but that's not all.
No. She's also building this whole online presence, engaging people on TikTok, on Facebook. It's like a dual income stream. She's selling coffee, sure, but also connection and experience, and apparently making pretty good money doing it.
That's incredible. And then there's the guy in Hanoi, remember? With the minivan fruit shop?
Oh, yeah. Driving around, loudspeaker blaring, Chai Kei Tui Day, fresh fruit here, and kids literally running out to buy from him.
It's so immediate. See an opportunity, grab it. Like
Yeah.
the home-based pho stalls, too. Just start. Seems so different from the American approach sometimes, which often involves tons of planning, permits, investment.
That just start mentality, that agility, it's a huge advantage when things change quickly. It lets people adapt almost instantly.
We saw that during COVID, too, didn't we? Vietnam's response, managing the pandemic quite effectively compared to many wealthier nations. That adaptability seems baked in.
Perhaps. Their history involves overcoming so much wars, economic isolation, poverty. Maybe that forced resilience, that ability to mobilize and adapt quickly, is just part of the national character now.
Which makes their response to these new tariffs even more interesting. So let's talk about that 46% U.S. reciprocal tariff again. That's a massive hit for any export-driven economy.
Huge. You'd expect it to seriously stall growth.
Right. But the data we're seeing shows Vietnam's GDP growth is still really strong. Over 8% in 2025, projected to maybe even hit double digits by 2026, despite that huge tariff.
It's remarkable, and it highlights that resilience we were just talking about. In the U.S., you might see widespread strikes or protests if costs jump or taxes go up that much. It's a common way to push back.
Yeah, demanding change from the system.
Whereas in Vietnam, the sources suggest the reaction is often more direct. More about facing the hardship head-on and finding a way through it now. There's almost an expectation of challenges, and the focus immediately shifts to practical solutions. How do we overcome this?
Less time spent protesting the obstacle, more time finding a way around it.
Perhaps. And a big part of that way around it seems to be digital, especially for the younger generation.
Ugh, the digital gold rush. Yeah, tell us about that. Fast, cheap internet seems to have unlocked a lot.
It really has. It's created this explosion of online entrepreneurship, remote work, content creation. The examples are really compelling.
Like the 22-year-old.
Exactly. University dropout in Da Nang, teaching English online and earning, 5 times the average national salary.
Wow, that's life-changing money there.
Absolutely. Gives you real financial freedom. And then her brother making a living as a video game streamer, potentially earning like 10,000 US dollars a month from viewers and donations.
10,000 a month streaming video games.
It's possible. And then there's the whole live commerce scene. People selling products directly through live streams, building huge followings, making serious money without needing a physical shop at all.
It's a completely different economic ecosystem flourishing online.
And crucially, the money earned goes so much further in Vietnam.
Right, the purchasing power. That's a key point. The sources highlighted the cost of living difference. Renting a nice, modern apartment in Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City might cost, what, a few $100s?
Compared to thousands for something much smaller in, say, San Francisco, that $3,000 the English teacher makes, it buys a very comfortable lifestyle in Vietnam.
Which leads to another interesting trend our sources mentioned, this millionaire migration.
Yeah, U.S. retirees, remote workers, realizing their savings or dollars stretch incredibly far there. $1 million in the U.S. provides a certain level of comfort, but in Vietnam, it can mean a truly wealthy lifestyle.
They become millionaires, relatively speaking.
Exactly. And it's not just cost of living. Some are drawn by things like high interest rates in Vietnamese banks, potentially 10-15%, though that comes with its own risks, like inflation.
Sure. Higher risk, higher potential reward. And the stock market potential, too, mentioned as being over 40% returns in some periods.
Yeah, it presents a very different financial picture, lots of opportunity, but you need to understand the local context and risks, of course.
Definitely. But beyond the immediate money-making, there's another layer to this adaptability, isn't there? This focus on learning.
Oh, absolutely. A really strong emphasis on lifelong learning, acquiring new skills. It's seen as crucial for getting ahead.
Like the factory worker example.
Right. Someone working a manual job, but dedicating their evenings or weekends to learning, say, data analytics online, aiming to transition into a better paying tech role. That kind of proactive self-improvement seems quite common.
And the investment is huge.
Yeah.
Billions spent sending students abroad. And domestically, families spending nearly 40% of their income on education. That's a massive commitment.
It really signals the value placed on knowledge and skills as the pathway to a better future. And it's paying off.
How so?
Well, Vietnam graduates a huge number of IT professionals every year, over 300,000. And the demand, both locally and globally, is even higher. Tech companies worldwide are recruiting Vietnamese talent, especially in fields like cybersecurity, where they've shown real strength.
So that investment in human capital is directly fueling their economic engine.
Without a doubt, it's a key part of their dynamism.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize this. We've seen the U.S. approach, often cushioned by wealth and safety nets, leading to certain expectations and reactions to economic stress. And then Vietnam, shaped by hardship, demonstrating this incredible resilience, adaptability, and entrepreneurial spirit, even when facing significant hurdles like those 46% tariffs.
Exactly. The core idea seems to be that wealth alone doesn't guarantee resilience. And hardship, counterintuitively perhaps, can actually foster an amazing ability to adapt and prosper.
It's that proactive mindset, isn't it? Confronting challenges directly.
Yes. That sentiment you hear repeated, no job is too small, no challenge is too great. That really seems to capture the essence of how they navigate these economic pressures, including things like major trade tariffs. They find a way.
So wrapping up, we've contrasted the U.S. with its comfort dilemma and Vietnam with its relentless adaptability. We've seen how the Vietnamese are tackling everything from daily economic survival to those hefty U.S. tariffs with innovation and drive.
It really underscores the power of mindset in shaping economic outcomes.
It does. And maybe that Vietnamese approach, that resilience, that resourcefulness, holds some valuable lessons, especially now in such a volatile global economy.
Which brings us to a final thought, really for you, the listener. As you hear about these different ways of facing economic headwinds, these different reactions to pressure, like significant tariffs, how does it make you think about your own approach?
Yeah. What can you take away from Vietnam's experience? From their way of dealing with volatility, with trade barriers, with the need to constantly adapt.
Maybe the key lesson is just how valuable that adaptability, that proactive spirit really is in your career, in your life. Maybe especially when things feel uncertain, something to mull over.